Hey guys, what's up? CodefForge here. Welcome in the next video. Today we'll be implementing the front-end part of our chat application. On the screen you can see the final result. We will use WebSockets together with our backend application, which we have implemented in the separated video. And for the visual side, we'll use Angular, Bootstrap and jQuery. For the backend side, you can find the link in the description of this video. And we can see that John and Will are having the conversation, so let's answer to the Will that we are having great. And you can see that the message is being sent to the Will, and also John has received the message. So let's move to the project generation part. We'll start with generating a new project using Angular CLI. So the command is ng-new WS chat application. We are setting prefix to CF, we are enabling SCSS styling, and we are setting routing to false because today we will not use any routing. So I will run the command and I will be back in a minute. Okay, so the project has been generated. I have opened it in the Visual Studio, and now let's quickly install two libraries, and the first one will be Bootstrap. It's here, and we'll also need jQuery, so we'll say npm install, and it will be jQuery, but we want to install version 3.4.1 because with the version 3.5 there are problems with the compatibility with the Bootstrap. Libraries are here. Now we can navigate to the angular.json to attach them to our project, and over here in the styles and scripts array we have to add some entries. Now I will paste some paths to the Node modules where our Bootstrap and jQuery is installed, and in the styles array we'll add the path to the Bootstrap CSS, and in the scripts array we'll add the paths to the jQuery and to the Bootstrap, and remember that the jQuery should be first. So now we can save this file and we can start our application. So we can simply go to the console and type ng-serve, hit enter, and our application should be up and running. It's there, so now we can get rid of this landing page. So we have to go to the source app, and in the app component.html file we can get rid of everything. We can save it and we should get the white page. Now let's generate chat component. So we'll open a new console next to the one which is running our application, and we'll say ng generate component, and we want to simply call it chat. We hit enter, and after a few seconds it should appear in the app directory, and it's here. We can close the console, we can navigate to our chat component class, and we can check the selector. So let's copy it. And now we want to display our chat component inside our app component. To do it, we will use the selector which we have copied, and now we can save it, and we can see that the chat works. Let's make a quick test to check out if Bootstrap is working. So we'll add the h1 tag here with the text chat. If we save it, yes, we can see that the font is coming from the Bootstrap, so it's working. So we can get rid of this and save it again. In the first place, let's add some fancy navigation bar on the top of our application so everyone knows that it is the chat application. And we'll go to the Get Bootstrap Examples subpage, and over here from the navbars example we will get one of the navbars. So we click Ctrl-U here and we'll look for the medium, and this is this one. We'll copy it and we'll navigate to the chat component.html and we'll paste it over here. If we save it, it should appear, and it's here. Let's adjust it so we don't need expand at MD. Brand name over here, we'll change it to the chat app, and we of course don't need this li element with the drop down, and also this one and this one. So we'll get rid of everything, and also this form. Okay, so now if we save it, it should be empty. Yeah, and that's good. Now we'll wrap this navbar into the header section like this, and we'll move it one level up. Okay, and we'll also add the main section, and we'll give it a class with the name chat. Okay, and after this we'll create a div element inside with the class container from the Bootstrap. Our chat application will have two areas. The first one will be responsible for displaying the content, and the second one will be the form that will allow user to send the messages. We'll start with the section responsible for displaying messages. So inside the container, we want to create another div element, and we'll give it a class that will be called chat content. And we'll also put another div with the card class, which comes from the Bootstrap. Let's try to save it, and we'll check out how it looks like. And we can see that nothing is there. We can barely see this border over here, so we have to add some SCSS to adjust it. So we go to the chat component SCSS, and over here, first of all, we'll add the rule for the chat class, and we'll set margin top to 10 rems. If we save it, we can now see something, barely. And the second rule will be for div chat content, and we'll set a few things here. So first one will be border radius, and we'll set it to the 0.25 rems. And after that we will have height set to 40 rems, and also we'll have margin bottom. It will be useful later to make the space between the displaying area and the form area. Now if we save it, nothing changed, but we'll see it in a moment. Also, let's add the rule for the card which we have added, and we'll set the height to the 100%. Okay, and now we can see the difference. Okay, and now we will add some mocked messages just for us to have a better understanding how it will look when it will work with the real messages. So we will use the unordered list tag, and we want to give it classes from the Bootstrap. So we say list and group, and the second one will be list group flash. And inside we'll create a line element with the class list group item, and this is all for now. Inside we will have two inline elements. First one will be the strong tag, and the second one will be the span element. And inside we'll say we will have John with this, and also some message from John. So let's say hello, and let's copy it and paste it under, and we'll say will, and we'll say hi. If we save it, we can see how the messages will be displayed. So now we can move to the second part of our chat, and it will be the form that will allow user to send messages. So we have to go under this chat content div element, and over here we'll create a form, and we don't need any action over here, so we can get rid of this. And inside this form element we'll have the div element with the classes chat send, which is our custom class, and also row, which comes from the Bootstrap. Okay, and now we have another div element with the call-to, which comes from the Bootstrap, and we'll copy this and we'll paste it 2 times, and we'll change it here for 8, and here will stay 2. By the way, I forgot to make it bigger so it's easier to read. I Oh, but now it will be better. In the first two columns, we'll have the input element. So we want to say input, and we'll have the input that will have the type of text. It will have the class from the Bootstrap, of course, so it will be form control. We have to give it a name because later on we will use the ng model together with this input. Also, let's add the ID, so it will be input user, and that's good. So now let's copy it and we'll paste it over here. And in the 8 columns, we will have the area for the message that user can send. So it will be almost the same. We'll change the name from the user to message, and input from the input user to input message. And the last part will be button. So we type button, and it will have type of submit because it will trigger the ng submit for our form, and we'll give it a classes from the Bootstrap to make it pretty. So it will be btn and btn primary, and the text will be sent. So now we can save it, and we have the area for sending our messages. Great. Now we can move to the functional part of our chat application, and we'll start with handling the form. And to do it, we will navigate to the app module.ts, and over here in the imports array, we want to import the forms module. And we also have to import it at the top, so we say import forms module, and we want to import it from Angular/forms. So now we can save it, and we should be able to use ng model in our form. So we will start with adding ng models to our inputs. So the first one will be for the user input, and the second ng model will be for the message input. We don't need anything for the button, and now we can handle the ng submit event on our form, and we can assign the method to this event, and it will be called send message, and as the argument we will pass our form. So we will call our form send form, and now we have to assign to this send form the ng form. So now we can access our form inside the component class. So we can save it. We got an error because we don't have send message in our class yet, so let's create one. We go to the chat component.ts file, and over here we want to create a send message method. So we say send message, and as the argument it will take send form, which will be the type of ng form, and it will be also imported. And now let's quickly check if it works. So we say console log, and we want to access send form value. Now if we save it, the error should be gone, and it's okay. And now let's say we are the wheel, we want to send hi, and let's open the console. If we click send, we can see that we are receiving user wheel and message hi, so everything works. Great. Now let's create chat message DTO, and DTO stands for data transfer object. So it will be the object that will be transferred between the different components of our system. And in our case, it will go to our backend application via the WebSocket. So we go to the app, we right click it, and we want to say new folder. We will call it models, and inside we want to create a new file, and we'll call it chat message dto.ts. Inside we want to create a class, so we say export class, and we'll name it just like we have named the file, so it will be chat message DTO, and it will have two properties. First one will be user, type of string, and the second one will be message, which will be also the type of string. And it will be also nice to have constructor, so it will accept user string and message string as the parameters. And inside our constructor we want to assign this user to user and this message to message. And this is pretty much everything. We will save it, and now we will generate our WebSocket service. So we will open a new terminal here. We'll navigate to the source app. Inside we will create a new directory with the name services, and we want to navigate inside. Over here we will say ng generate service, and we'll call it WebSocket. We hit enter and it should appear in the services. So let's navigate there. Now the coolest part of this tutorial starts, because we will implement communication with our backend service over WebSocket. We'll start with creating two properties, and first one we will store the reference to the WebSocket object, so it will be the type of WebSocket. And the second one will store our messages, so it will be chat messages, which will be the type of chat message DTO, and it will be array, and we will initialize it with the empty array. So in these chat messages we will store all the messages that will come from our backend, so it will store all the messages from other clients. Now let's implement methods responsible for opening connection, sending messages, and closing the connection over WebSocket. We'll start with the opening the connection, so we will call it open WebSocket. And inside, first of all, we want to say this WebSocket, and we want to create a new WebSocket object. And in the constructor of this WebSocket object, we have to provide the connection URL. And in our case, it will be WS, which stands for the WebSocket protocol. And after this, we have to provide the host name and port of our backend service. So it will be localhost port 8080, and the endpoint, which is exposed for the WebSocket connection, and it will be chat, because this is how we have implemented it in the previous video. Now we can implement event handlers for our WebSocket objects. So we will say this WebSocket, and the first one which we want to implement is to onOpen. And now we want to use the arrow function. We want to pass the event, and inside we want to simply console log some message, so we will know that the connection with the WebSocket has been established. Second one will be this WebSocket on message, which is more important because it will have some logic which we will need. So like before, we'll use the arrow function, and for now we will leave it like this. And now the last one is this WebSocket on close, and we also want to catch the event, and we want to simply display the message that the connection has been closed, so we will know that something is wrong, just like this. Okay, I have forgot the semicolon over here. So now we can go back to this onMessage handler, and since our users will be sending chat message DTO to the backend, and these messages will be broadcasted to all of our other clients. Inside this WebSocket on message will receive the chat message DTO. Of course, it will be wrapped in the WebSocket event, but the actual message which will be sent and received will be living in the event.data. And now all we have to do is to parse this data. So we say json.parse, because it will be the string. So we have to parse it to the object, and we want to store it in the chat message DTO variable. So now we have received the event. We have extracted our message from the data property. We have parsed it from the string to the object, and we are storing it in the chat message DTO. And now all we have to do is to push this message to the chat messages collection by saying this chat messages push chat message DTO. And this is basically the handling of the incoming messages. That's good. And now we can handle sending. So we go here. We are not longer in the open WebSocket method. So we say public send message. This is the new method. And this method will receive chat message DTO as the argument, which will be the type of chat message DTO. And sending the message over the WebSocket is really simple. We say this WebSocket, we say send. And before sending the message, because now we are working with the object, we have received the object as the argument, we have to stringify it using the static method from the JSON class, and we say JSON stringify chat message DTO. And this is all. It is also nice to close the WebSocket connection, so we'll create a dedicated method for it, which will be called close WebSocket. And inside, all we have to do is to call this WebSocket close. So now we have implemented the WebSocket service, we have everything, and now we can use this WebSocket service in our chat component. First of all, we have to inject it. So in the constructor, we want to say public WebSocket service, which will be the type of WebSocket service. It is public because we will use this WebSocket service chat messages collection in the HTML file. Now in the ng-on-init lifecycle hook, we want to open the connection with the WebSocket. So we say this WebSocket service open WebSocket. And it is also nice to implement on destroy interface and to implement the method, and it should be here. And in the ng-on destroy, we want to close our WebSocket, so we say this WebSocket service close WebSocket. So each time the chat component will be created, we will open the connection over the WebSocket, and after destroying the component, the WebSocket connection will be closed. So we can save it, and we can implement sending the messages. So over here, we don't need this console log because we already know that it works. And we will create a const variable, and we will call it chat message DTO, and we will use the chat message DTO constructor. And in this constructor, we want to access the send form value, and the first thing will be user, and the second thing will be message. And now we can get rid of this. So we have created the chat message DTO object using values from the form, and now all we have to do is to say this WebSocket service send message. So this is the method we have implemented in the service, and as the argument it will take chat message DTO. And this is pretty much all. we can improve one thing in this send message method, and it is clearing the message input each time the user will send the message. So the nickname over here, Will or John, will stay, but the message input after sending the message will be cleared. And to do it, we can simply say send form, and we can access the controls array. Inside we will have the message property, and we can call reset on it. Okay, so sending the messages is done. Now we have to take care of displaying the messages. To do it, let's first save it, and let's go to the chat components.html file. Over here right now we have some mocked messages, so we don't need them anymore. We will leave only one element here, and in this li we will use ng4 directive. And in this ng4 we first of all want to say let chat message off, and now we will use the injected WebSocket service instance. So we say WebSocket service because it's being injected over here, so this is why we have access to it, and it's public also. And this WebSocket service has the collection which we have created that is called chat messages. And now in each iteration we can say, it should be double, chat message, and we want to display user. Let's add space over here. And in the span element, using interpolation, we want to display chat message message. And this is pretty much everything. We can save it. And we can see that we have no messages right now. So I will start the backend application, which we have created in the different video, and we'll test out our application. Okay, so we have two instances of the front-end part and one instance of the backend of our chat application, which is working under hood. We can see in the console that we have received the open event, so the connection works. It's also the same in this instance. Yes, we have also open event, so it is good. And now let's say on the right side will be John, and over here will be Will. And let's start a conversation. So let's say we'll send the hello message. We can see that the message is being broadcasted to the both of the users. And now let's say John will answer with hi, how you doing? And we click the send. They will also receive the message. So that's great. And I hope you also noticed that the message input is being cleared each time we send the message, and John and Will stays the same. Okay guys, so this is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I also encourage you to check out the second part, which is the implementation of the backend application for our chat. So yeah, this is pretty much it. And remember about hitting subscribe button, leaving the likes and comments. See you next time.